and I love to clear people's emotions, and we're going to talk about why I think that's so important. And the first thing we're talking about is tonight's title, which is Nobody is Going to Rescue You, and why that's a great thing. Why is that a good thing? Because, we think we want to be rescued because sometimes life just gets so damn hard and so tiring and so difficult that we really just get to a point where we're not interested in doing it anymore because we're tired, we're emotionally tired. And usually when we're emotionally exhausted, that also is a reflection very much of what's going on in our emotional energy system. So we will talk about the chakras, which if you guys are sick of hearing me talk about it, that's fine, because I do talk about it all the time, but I believe in it so much. So thank you guys for being here. And if you have any questions or any comments, go ahead and type them in the chat, the live chat, and I will get to them as soon as possible. So why is it good that nobody's coming to rescue you? Right? Why is that good? Well, because when people rescue you, that becomes a pattern. When you wait for people to rescue you, or you depend on other people to do things for you, your life is always going to be extremely unstable. And I'm not suggesting that partnerships are bad. I'm not against relationships. It isn't anything like that. But when we are being rescued, so to speak, or we are the rescuer, either way around, you start to form dependency. So being rescued is essentially dependency. And in 2025, this is, the way that the dynamics of the family and relationships is not like what it used to be. And one of the really confusing things is I'm a 49-year-old woman. Hello, everybody. I don't know how old any of you are out there, but when you are my age or maybe a little bit older, especially now, I'm going to include men and women in this, but especially if you are a woman and you were being read fairy tales and going to see Disney movies, you really believed that, oh, okay, so someone's going to rescue me. I'm going to grow up and some gorgeous prince is going to ride on his horse and, save me from whatever and, save my life and we'll live happily ever after. And we're still teaching little girls and little boys this crap. But in 2025, that's just not the way it goes. And I'm not sure that it was ever a really smart way to go for society at all. And again, I say these things not because I don't love being in a romantic relationship or I don't see the value of romantic relationships and family relationships, but simply because we all have to learn how to fend for ourselves and take care of ourselves in today's world. And when you are bringing up a child, which again, anyone 45, maybe even early 40 plus who's watching this or who will ever see this video knows that we were raised in the back of our minds that we were going to be rescued. And the more distressed we were, the more we really expected to be saved. And it doesn't happen. Here's the caveat. If it does happen, and I've been there, okay? I have gotten together with, what I thought was a wonderful, lovely man in a very vulnerable time in my life. And I thought, okay, I'm falling in love and, he'll just help me get out of this place I'm in my life. But what I've realized years later is that while that man may or may not have had good intentions, that type of personality is seeking a woman, or it could be a woman seeking a man, could be either way, but in my case, who was vulnerable and who could be controlled. Because if I cannot take care of myself and I'm entering into a new relationship, that new relationship is going to be a reflection of where I was at that time. Okay, so I'm not speaking about if you're married for 25 years or 10 years and someone has a hardship. You help each other through the hardships. That's marriage. But I'm talking about getting into these relationships where one person is so vulnerable and the other person is the rescuer. And let me tell you, I've been in both roles. As a therapist, I love rescuing people. Oh my goodness, how many people have I rescued? And so many people that I have rescued as friends, as romantic partners, doesn't work. Because as soon as they get cut off, or as soon as you set a boundary and they're not getting fed their tube of Liz food, they have a breakdown. Because ultimately, when when you have the idea that I'm in a place and I need someone to rescue me, you're asking to sort of not take responsibility for yourself. And I say that with no judgment. I've felt it. We all have. But in reality, I wish that even in my darkest places and times that I would have had a great therapist like myself, or somebody who could have said to me, hey, you're a little bit vulnerable to be doing this. And it becomes a vicious cycle, right? The damsel in distress, the rescuer. And this is not about necessarily monetary, although it could be. You might be in a financially awful position and you're looking for a partner who has financial means. I've seen that, men and women equally. It could be a bunch of things, but oftentimes, and I would say more times than not, it's about emotional distress. So when you are in severe emotional distress, a time when you probably need somebody more than ever, that is not the time to enter into a serious relationship of any kind. Take it from me. I wish I had different advice to be giving you, and I wish I had a different story to tell. But after witnessing probably thousands of different relationships and helping thousands of people through life as a therapist, it just doesn't work. Healthy relationships and healthy lives, and I use the word healthy in quotes, okay? Maybe I'm going to switch healthy to fulfilling. Fulfilling lives and fulfilling relationships are built on a mutual contribution and a mutual understanding and mutual trust. So you can have, certain things maybe that you do in the relationship for this person, and then they maybe have certain things that they really like to do, and they do it for you. So it's a quid quo pro, so to speak. But that is a very different dynamic than the power and control dynamic. And when you are looking to be rescued, you are actually telling the universe and you are going to attract somebody who wants to control you. And you never really know how they're going to come on the first time. You never really know what you're getting into. So I'm here to empower each and every person that's watching or that will ever watch to learn how to rescue yourself and to kind of think about those fairy tales that we were all raised on and probably are still being raised on, and understand that they're just that. They're a fairy tale. And I'm not, I don't want to be coming across in a negative way. I don't want to be, because I believe in love, and I believe that life can be very beautiful. But life can also be tough, and we must be able to rely on ourselves to get us out of our situations. So let me give you a for example. So if we understand that rescuing or wanting to be rescued by someone, well, a lovely thought, probably won't translate that well in reality. Let's take an example. I'm going to use some real examples of clients that I have. So I'm thinking of, okay, here's a good one. I'm thinking of when I work with addicts, okay? And oftentimes, addicts, when they're in the throes of addiction, the last thing they want to do is go for treatment, because the thought of being sober and owning up to a lot of the destructive behavior that they've been involved in is so overwhelming and so anxiety provoking that they will avoid it at any cost. So 9.99999 infinity times out of 10 that somebody is seeking help for addiction, it's because someone else is bringing them to my office. I can think of one client in my 17 years of being in mental health that ever came for addiction help because they volunteered it. It happens, but it's the minority. So with addiction, most people are dragged in by a husband or a wife who's threatening to leave them if they don't clean themselves up. And they come to me for couples therapy. And I tell them, I cannot do couples therapy with you guys because this person is, a very severe addict / dependent on something, on a substance. And there's no way that I can treat a couple if one of the people in that couple is an addict, because that addiction is one person's problem. Yes, can the other person set boundaries and drag them to therapy and pray for them and cry for them and all that? Yes, but it's not going to work, because a person who is an addict has to come to a place on their own where they say, hey, I really need help. I know people, and I have had clients who've been addicts, severe addicts, for decades. And if they don't want to stop and they don't want to quit, they're not going to. And that's sort of its own animal addiction, but it's very reflective of any destructive patterns that we have in relationships. I know for myself, I was a smoker. I used to smoke cigarettes. And I was so addicted. I started smoking in my teenage years, and I didn't quit until I was maybe 29 or 30. And my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer. Now, there was no lung cancer in my family, okay? But somehow she got lung cancer. And I was a pack a day smoker. And I would actually run 3 or 4 miles every morning and go home and have a cigarette. Or I would have a couple cigarettes with my coffee before I went running. I stayed in great shape. I would box with a trainer for 15 rounds of boxing, leave the gym, go in the car and light up a cigarette. I was addicted, period. People would say, my family would say, what are you, crazy? You're smoking cigarettes and you're ruining all the things you do for your health and blah, 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 and you shouldn't be smoking and it's bad. And all it did was annoy me. I was not stupid. I knew that smoking wasn't good for me. People who are addicts or do whatever self-destructive behavior they do, they know it's not good for them, but they're not going to listen. So if you think you're going to rescue someone else, not going to happen. And in the few instances where you may be somewhat successful in rescuing somebody, you're creating a very dependent dynamic. And that is not good for either one of you, and it will wind up being a very futile dynamic. You'll wind up having lots of highs and lows, lots of toxicity. So trying to rescue another person is heartbreaking. What's lucky for me is that I chose to be a therapist, so it's my job. I get paid by people who want help. They want to be rescued. Now, even still, as a therapist, I don't know that I rescue people. I think that I hold their hand and guide them to the place that they want to be in their life. But as far as do I actually rescue somebody, I don't see it that way. Because if that person didn't want my help, didn't want therapy, nothing would ever happen. So, you have to think clearly about these things. And people have the best of intentions when they want to rescue, but it doesn't work. Let's flip it. Let's say you're waiting to be rescued, okay? Let me give you another case scenario. So let's say you are in, this is something, a very destructive cycle I've seen. Let's say you get into a really bad financial situation. Okay, let's say someone has a gambling addiction or whatever the issue is, they don't know how to manage money, or they're just not making, whatever it is. Someone gets themselves, that you love, or you get yourself into a situation where you're having terrible financial problems. You're going to, and I see this a lot, people will hope and pray and dream and do everything that somehow the right job or the right money or the right situation or something is just gonna drop on their lap and everything's gonna get better. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, because I believe that it can, but it's gonna come from you doing the work on yourself. Because whatever isn't working in your life, if you're not in the financial position you want, if you don't have the relationship you want, if you don't have the health that you want, it really has nothing to do with other people. It ultimately has to do with you. Why are you blocking yourself from finding a mutual love? Why do you block yourself from the financial freedom that you want? Why do you not take care of yourself in a healthy way? And this isn't a blame talk. This is taking ownership talk in a non-judgmental way of yourself. So I wouldn't suggest that someone starts beating themselves up or self-punishing, because that's really a big waste of time. But I'm just simply saying that if you have things that you want to change in your life, or you're not receiving what you want, you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what is the problem? Is it in your belief system? Do you feel like you're not worthy of something? Do you feel like you can't really do it? Are you lacking confidence? And all of these things I'm mentioning are nothing to be ashamed of. They're human issues. Worthiness is, in my opinion, a huge human problem. We are not raised to love ourselves. We are not taught how to love ourselves. It doesn't even really come up. I think Mr. Rogers was the last person that used to talk about it, and he's really the only person. But it's not something that feels concrete. So right now, I want you to just think about, what is something that you are dealing with in your life where you just wish you could just be rescued, just pulled out of it. So you need a lifeline. And hear me when I say this, and I'm talking directly to you. You can do this. You really can do this. You can save yourself. All it takes is ownership. That's it. When you can step up to the plate and say, I have an issue, I have a problem, I'm repeatedly banging my head off the wall when I try to make money, I'm banging my head off the wall when I try to get healthy, I really bang my head off a wall when I'm trying to find true love. You have to take ownership of it and say, okay, there must be something, some belief system that I'm holding about myself that is preventing me from achieving these things. And most times people do not believe that they're worthy. They have very, deeply rooted traumas that they don't even realize are affecting them, and they're blocked, energetically, emotionally blocked. They don't feel that they're worthy. I had a conversation with an old friend of mine a few months ago who was having a horrible time in a relationship. And it sounded really, really destructive to me, but I didn't get too much into the details. But basically, this friend of mine got himself into a relationship with someone who was a severe heroin addict. And I'll leave it there. And according to this friend of mine, this heroin addict was not only, severely addicted to a very dangerous, hard drug, but was also abusive and, played mental games and mind games with him. And it sounded really awful. And I said to him, well, why do you think that this is a person who is worthy of you? Or why do you think that this is okay, that you would even accept this type of, or chase, or he's even chasing or wanting this type of relationship? And his answer was very telling. His answer to me was, because I think I deserve to be punished for all the bad things I've done to other people. And I was really taken back by that. I think it's a really honest answer to my question. And I think it's worth thinking about if you're listening to this. I mean, to really feel that horrible about yourself, that you've done so much bad to other people, that you're going to stay in a terribly abusive relationship with a hardcore drug addict who has no interest in helping themselves, who's mean to you and plays games. You know, that's not, the problem is not with the girlfriend. The problem is his. And I told him that, you know, this is your problem. And even myself, when I look at a friendship or a romantic relationship or, you know, a family relationship where I'm continuously feeling hurt and I'm expecting that one day this person's gonna just have a light bulb go off in their head and realize what they've done or how much they've hurt me and come back and, you know, apologize and rescue me, that it's a joke. It's not gonna happen. So when we take ownership of these destructive, painful, beyond painful things that are happening in our lives, then we can start moving towards changing them. And I don't mean that any of us who've been mistreated or hurt by others should say, oh, it's my fault they're mistreating me. Not at all. What I'm saying is I am allowing this to continue. I'm sticking around for the abuse. I'm hanging out for the hurt and the pain. I'm having unrealistic expectations of another person and not sharing with them how I feel. And so no matter what the situation is in your life, whether it's financial, love, health, I bring up those three because those are really the three major areas of people's lives that they really struggle with and find, you know, put an incredible amount of importance on, rightfully so. Once you can step up to the plate and say, I'm owning this, I'm owning the chaos that's in my life. The problem is not with the chaos creator. The problem is with me because I'm allowing it. Now you just set yourself free. You really did. Now the work can begin. So once you take that ownership and you understand that you are not setting the proper boundaries and you're not allowing yourself to be around people who are respectful and treat you well, then you call me and we get into some real therapy work and we dig kind of in and understanding what kind of belief systems you're holding about yourself that would make you stick around in these beyond painful situations, or why you stick around in situations where you're constantly getting the short end of the stick. And we can really figure things out. And it's really quite beautiful. And all it takes is just saying, say it to God, say it to the mirror, say it to your best friend, say it to your dog. I own this situation. I am stepping up and taking responsibility instead of waiting for the other person to figure it out and come rescue me in my emotional distress. Once we get there, everything shifts. It's that simple. Some of the things that I've noticed when I work with clients in these situations, or with myself when I've been in these situations, is that there's a lot of these old belief systems that we have about life that just continue and get reinforced over and over and over again. So for example, let's take money, okay? This is kind of a controversial one, but I'm going to put it out there. I only deserve money if I work hard for it. I only deserve money if I work hard for it. Here's my problem with that belief. Who decides who works hard and who doesn't? Does the dishwasher who's making minimum wage work any less hard than somebody who's making 20 million a year? I don't think so. I think they're both working hard. I think they have different expectations of themselves and different expectations out of life. So if you have a big, business mogul who's making 20 million a year and he's working like to the bone, or he's working just enough to make money, or whatever the situation is, you can't say with any truth that he works any harder or not as hard as someone who's making minimum wage. So it comes down to our belief systems and our beliefs about money. Money is sort of neutral. It's neutral. It's a neutral thing. It's an energetic neutral thing that we all need in order to live. So we can either expect that we want a lot of money because we want to enjoy the freedoms that money brings, or we can have that mindset of, well, I must not be working hard enough, or maybe I'll just work a lot harder and I'll just burn myself out and then I'll deserve the money. And that will never work. And that's why I think so many people are so frustrated and burnt out, because we have these kind of twisted belief systems about health, about money, about love, and we have deeply rooted human, wounds or misbeliefs that we're just not worthy, that only certain people are worthy of certain things. And from what I've observed in life in general, I don't see good people getting all of their wishes fulfilled and bad people getting nothing they want. It doesn't work like that. It works only based upon what you believe. Life is nothing more than a reflection of you. So whatever you believe is what exactly you will see. No exceptions. No exceptions. So if you are thinking, well, gee, I work so hard, why aren't I making more money? Well, probably because you don't really believe you deserve it. And you're not looking for other situations where you could actually make that much money, or the amount of money that you really want seems too far out. Only the certain special people get that kind of money. With health, people say to me, oh, you're in such good shape, you're so lucky. And I'm thinking, well, I worked for it. I did it. I watch what I eat. I exercise. I stay healthy, knock on wood. Doesn't really guarantee me anything, but I have expectations for myself that are important to me. And I do believe that I want to enjoy an easier life where I'm not living at doctor's offices and having a hard life as I get older. Now, just because I expect that is no guarantee. You still may get a disease, God forbid, people still get unfortunate things like cancer or, what have you. And that's nobody's fault. But when you take care of your health, when you are confronted with those situations, you're going to get through them a lot easier than somebody who's in terrible health. And so again, it's ownership, ownership, ownership. And everybody doesn't have to be a fitness buff to be healthy. It just takes a little bit of attention and creativity, as does anything else that you want. And more than anything, it takes a feeling of worthiness and a belief that you are worthy of it and that you can have it, and not feeling guilty about it. That being said, the energetic piece of this relational and self-development issue of waiting to be rescued or wanting to go rescue someone else, both I find to be wastes of time, but can be good learning lessons. We have a chakra system. We have an energetic system in our bodies. And I always compare it to a cell phone. When right now I'm broadcasting on YouTube Live from my home, from my cell phone. I don't know how it works. I'm not smart enough to know that. But I know that there's all kinds of signals that are flying out of my phone that are hitting cell towers and YouTube, and I don't even understand it, but I don't see any of those energetic connections at all. I don't know how to do that. I cannot do that. But I know that it's happening. I know that electricity is running through my house because when I turn light switches, they go on or they go off, but I don't see electricity. We don't see energy at all, really, unless you're, have a very special clairvoyant type of gift. And there are people who can do that. I can feel energy and I can see energy in my mind when I'm working on somebody. So usually when you're emotionally blocked, not feeling worthy or not believing you can do something, not having confidence, these emotions from your whole entire life and all your experiences have to go somewhere. And they typically go right into our bodies and our energy system. And they block us from, they're energetic blocks. They block us from all the wonderful, beautiful things that exist that we want to experience and have and feel. So with my therapy, not only am I doing talk therapy, but I'm also doing energetic emotional therapy, where I am clearing your energy after training for 5+ years on learning how to do that. And they really work simultaneously. It's so fascinating, and I see such miracles happening with my clients that I wish I could convince each and every one of you to even just do one session with me, because it would be so life-changing. Yesterday, I did an amazing session, for example, of a client who was carrying a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, like most of us, from childhood, and had recently lost her husband very suddenly. So, of course, she's experiencing all kinds of terrifying emotions, as anybody would. And when I was working on her energy field and her energy centers, I was able to get information about things that she had felt as a child and never shared with me, things that she was feeling about all kinds of things. And I was able to give her this information and say, hey, this is what I cleared in your emotional system. This is what I was seeing in your emotional system. These are your blocks. This is what I cleared. This is what we need to do. And she was stunned, because for the first time in her life, it's like, her whole life pattern, every pattern that she had really unconsciously created was stopped from one session. And she was able to just look at it, own it, and then change it. And once you really do that deep of a clearing, like I do in my therapy sessions, yes, there's maintenance, and yes, there's follow-up, but it will blow your mind how well it works. So I would love and invite anybody who wants that kind of change in their life to reach out and call me. Before I wrap up this evening, I want to just make sure to ask politely and please to like this video, to share it with people who you know might be interested or might need some help or some guidance on why they're not getting what they want out of life. And to follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. It's so easy, at Uplift Me. My website is upliftmeliz.com. Very easy. Just follow me, like the videos, share them. There's so much wonderful information all over my YouTube. I never really promoted my YouTube channel until a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. So I need your help to get it moving, and I need people to, support me on social media so that we can help as many people as possible. Coming up on Saturday, I'm starting a 5-day series called Freedom Codes. And these posts and very 10-second videos have different, they target different belief systems that we have that are blocking us. And then a little mantra saying that I came up with for you to repeat to yourself and listen to over and over again so that you can retrain your brain to think in a freedom mentality, not a scarcity, not a way of, I'll never make it. There's not enough. I'll never figure it out. I don't believe in myself. I'm going to cut through all those belief systems, and I'm going to give you these little freedom codes that you can listen to as many times as you want. You can write them down. You can use them to start changing your belief systems on your own and start seeing change in your life, especially if you're not in a position where you can do therapy right now. So I have so many free resources and so much beautiful information to help people. So I ask that you all share it and follow me. I need your support. And look out for that series. It's going to be on my YouTube channel right here, my Facebook and my Instagram, which are all linked in my bio right here on the YouTube channel. And tell your friends to subscribe because I've got great, fresh content coming out almost daily. And this is the kind of healing movement that will change lives. So I thank you so much for giving me your time tonight. It's been a pleasure to be speaking with all of you. I'm going to check the chat really quick to see if anyone has any last minute questions. And if you want to set up a session with me, it's so easy. All you have to do is contact me through any of the, okay, let's see. What do we have? We do have some stuff. Hello, everybody. Okay, so let's see. Chance, hello, Chance. Hello, Pat. Hello, Carter Law. I'm the only viewer. Alan said hi. 28 and okay, I don't know what these things mean. Okay. Let's see, Mr. Envy. I'm here, Elizabeth. I finally found you and I'd love to save you. Thank you. That's very sweet. Okay. Let's see. Accountability is at an all-time low amongst people. Very transactional. What if the addict wants to quit? Could you help them then? Yes. If somebody wants to quit, of course I can help them. And I feel like I can pretty much help anybody who wants to be helped. I believe that. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of this evening. And I will see you guys back here next Wednesday, live at 6. And that's it. Everyone have a wonderful, healthy week and take ownership of yourself so you can have all the things that you want in your life. Good night.